Good evening.
Good evening and welcome. We are delighted that you've chosen to spend part of your Tuesday evening with us. I think I've met everybody, but in case I missed somebody, my name is Eric Weinheimer, and I'm the lucky guy who gets to be the CEO of the Cara program. And for those of you who don't know exactly what the Cara program is, we are a nonprofit organization founded 21 years ago, and our mission is to serve individuals who are homeless, people who are struggling in poverty, adults, who has an average age of 41 years old, and we're providing comprehensive training, quality job placement, and critical support services. So this past year we placed 300 individuals in quality jobs in the private sector. Over 70% of those individuals remain employed for at least 1 year. We also have 4 social enterprises that help us to create over 250 transitional jobs each year. The first social enterprise is Clean Slate. It's a neighborhood beautification business that we started with the help of Goldman Sachs. And it's a business that does litter abatement, snow removal, light landscaping for 19 business districts throughout the city. We have another business called 180 Properties, which is a business that maintains foreclosed homes for banks. And that's a joint venture with Mercy Housing Lakefront. We also have an alternative staffing business that we started in 2012 called TCP Staffing. And then most recently, we started another business line of Clean Slate that we hope will grow into its own separate social enterprise called, I forgot what it's called. It's called Chapter 2. Thank you very much. See? If at any time you want to help me out this evening, that would be awesome. It is called Chapter 2. What's exciting about Chapter 2 is that it's a direct result of this fellowship. I went to Oregon and visited an organization called the St. Vincent de Paul Society of Lane County. And they are an organization that's an $11 million social enterprise that creates waste-based businesses. And they helped us to start a business called Chapter 2 that sells used books online. And we just started 2 months ago. We've sold 43 books. We're building infrastructure. And it's just very exciting to see that the creation of Chapter 2 is a direct result from this fellowship. As you can see, this wonderful avatar that is scarily looks just like me. And I want to acknowledge our development team led by Sarah Mansberger, who put that together. And it's just created such buzz and such interest. I talk to people about my fellowship who would never have talked about my fellowship had it not been for this avatar. It's great, great attention. But thanks to the Chicago Community Trust, who we have 2 representatives, Janice and Jim, here today. We're delighted to have them. I was given this fabulous opportunity to tour social enterprises and workforce development organizations throughout the country for 3 months this year. And it was just a tremendous gift from the Trust. And I couldn't have done it without the great leadership team here at the Cara program. I didn't have to worry about what's going on at the Cara program. I could truly get away and focus on this fellowship. And we have just a tremendous leadership team that allowed me to do that. But for 3 months, I traveled. And I went to the West Coast, and I went to the East Coast, and I went to London, and I also went to Calgary. And toured some extraordinary social enterprises and met some really inspiring social entrepreneurs. And the timing of this fellowship could not have been any better. For me personally, I've been doing this work for 17 years. And this really came at a time where, you know, it allowed me to get out from the day-to-day and get re-energized by this work. And, you know, this work, so many of us in this sector, we're passionate about what we do, but it's also great to take a break and recharge the batteries. And so for me, after 17 years in this work, it was great to see other people and be inspired by them. It's also, the timing was very good for the Cara program because we are in the 2nd year, we just began the 2nd year of a 5-year strategic plan in which we're going to create and secure 3,500 jobs over this period. Now, to put that in perspective, we created and secured 3,500 jobs over the past 10 years, and so we want to do in a 5-year period what took us 10 years to do. And we're going to achieve that goal by continuing to do the good work that we're doing it, only doing it better, but we need innovation. And as our board member Bill Conroy likes to say over there, you need disruptors. You need new ways of doing things that we're truly going to scale. And so this fellowship gave me ideas like Chapter 2 and so many others on how we can create scale and achieve this bold goal of 3,500 jobs over a 5-year period of time. Before I get into the meat of the presentation, a few things I'd like to say. First of all, I have no answers, right? A lot of experience through this fellowship. I had some great perspective, new insight, but I don't have answers. I have a lot of questions. So don't think that I'm saying that I know all there is about social enterprise as a result of this fellowship. And number two, understand that I'm looking at this fellowship or this social enterprise sector through the lens of job creation. As we all know, social enterprise, it's all about, it could be about education or it could be about the environment. I'm looking at it through the lens of job creation. And so understand that's the perspective that I bring to it. We said 6 to 7. I'm going to be speaking until probably about 6:50, which isn't going to allow too much time for questions. As you can see, we have some refreshments in the back. If you have to leave at 7, certainly understand, but we would also invite you to join us afterwards where we can continue on the conversation. One more time. Am I doing it the right way there?
Click on the screen.
So I decided to begin with a little drama, you know. I decided to say, so what exactly is a social enterprise anyway? And you talk to all these people, people don't know what the heck it is. And you talk to one person, they got a definition, you got another person, they have a different definition. It gets really confusing and it gets really frustrating. And I talk to more people who are in this field saying, you know what, I'm tired of talking about it. It gets boring to me. Let's just do it. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. But I look at this question, this definition of what is a social enterprise. And I'm reminded of some meetings that I have with individuals who are looking to make that transition from the for-profit sector to the non-profit sector. I've been doing this work for 17 years. 10 years prior, I was in financial services, and I made this switch to the to the non-profit sector. And so often, regularly, I have people call me and say, hey, can you give me advice on how I can make this switch? I want to go from the for-profit sector to the non-profit sector, and any counsel, any advice. And so I will often meet with these individuals, and I'll take out a sheet of paper, and I'll write non-profit sector on the top of the sheet. And I'll say, so how can I help you? What do you want? And they'll say, I just want to do work that has purpose, and I want to make a difference in the world, and I want to be in a mission-driven organization. I said, okay, great. But the nonprofit sector is really, really huge. It's really, really big. So tell me, what stirs your passion? Is it human services? Is it arts and culture? Is it education? Is it healthcare? What is it? And they'll kind of say, I really like education. I said, okay, great. So we'll take a look at education. And then I sit there and I say, is it elementary education? Or are you looking at high schools? Are you looking at universities? I kind of get a little frustrated. Like, I like working with young kids. Okay, great. So do you want to do early childhood? And by this time, they're like, just freaking give me the keys. Let me know how I can get into doing what the nonprofit sector does. And I want to go as far down this chart as possible, because I can't help this individual. I can't direct them unless I know what their goals and their objectives are. Is when you start up here in a very general world, a very large sector, I'm lost, I'm confused. But when we start to get down here, then I can think of contacts and networks, and then I can start to say, all right, this is what I would advise. But I need to know what your goals and objectives are. The same situation for social enterprise. We need to do this exact same exercise, because we are, as a sector, talking up here, well, I'm a social entrepreneur. Great. What does that mean? What is your passion? What's your mission? And it isn't until we organize around common goals and objectives, in my opinion, it isn't until we do that that we are truly going to scale social enterprise in this country. It isn't until we begin to organize around a common mission amongst organizations. REDF is an organization very large, it's just very prominent in the social enterprise sphere. It's out of San Francisco. It stands for the Roberts Enterprise Development Fund. It was started by George Roberts from KKR back in 2005. And what they do is they invest in social enterprises, primarily in California. So they have a portfolio of 10 in San Francisco. They have another portfolio of 10 in Los Angeles, and they hosted me. That was the start of my fellowship. And they provide funding. They provide capacity building. They services. They provide best practices. And what they've done is, I think, quite smart, is they want to build a national movement. And so they've created a loose association of organizations that are about creating jobs for individuals who are struggling in poverty, people who are homeless, people who have low skills, people who have high barriers to employment. And they say, you know, we're going to create an organization called SE for Jobs. It's an association. There's about 40 of us around the country, and we're going to talk every month. And what they've done, Red F, is they've taken social enterprise and they've said, you know what, our goals and our objectives are about job creation. That's what we're about. And we need to organize around that. And that's what we need to be doing for education. Not just SE for education, but SE for literacy, SE for early child development, SE for the environment, social enterprise for the environment. More specific we can be, the better off that we're going to have for the social life, the more we can grow this sector. Because if we don't, we are not going to be able to secure procurement from public and private entities. If we don't organize around common goals and objectives, we're not going to be able to attract meaningful finance and investment. We're not going to be able to shape and influence policy. We're not going to be able to scale the impact of social enterprise. I went through this presentation last week, Technori Pitch. I'd never been there before, in which entrepreneurs pitch their organizations to investors. We had 2 social entrepreneurs. It was all about social enterprise on Tuesday night, and Elise Zelikowski from the Rebuilding Exchange and Sharon Schneider, very good friends with us here at the Cara program. They presented their social enterprises. They did a great job. And before they did their pitch, they had a lecturer from the University of Chicago come out and do a presentation on social enterprise. And I really like this slide that she allowed me to use, in which she put the spectrum of what is social enterprise. We all know what a conventional nonprofit is. It's over on this side. And then you also know what a conventional business is. All makes sense. But when we get into the nonprofit with some earned income and a social enterprise, which is kind of a, I still don't know what that is, or a socially responsible business, that's when we get gray. And the problem is we're all talking in this part of the spectrum. And my fear, as someone who has been doing social enterprise for jobs for the past 8 years, is my fear is that as this movement starts to take shape, the investment and the policy is going to be focused on maybe socially responsible businesses. Organizations, businesses that are for-profit, that have a social impact, but it's not addressing some of society's most vexing problems. And it's a social impact that's more attainable, or it's a social impact that's politically hot. And so if we don't organize and begin to define and understand what we're talking about with social enterprise, I'm concerned that too much of the investment's going over here, and we're going to lose out an opportunity to invest in those organizations that are taking on the most difficult challenges in society, whose impact is going to take a longer-term time for us to realize, but that is desperately needed. That innovation is desperately needed for these seemingly intractable challenges that we face as society. So we need to define social enterprise. The most impressive social enterprise by far that I met was Pioneer Human Services out of Seattle. People who work with me at the Cara program, they're tired of hearing about them, but they are awesome. It, again, out of Seattle, and it was started in the 1960s by a gentleman who was in recovery, a businessman, and so he started halfway houses in Seattle. He they began to work with people coming out of the prison system, and big operation. It's a $76 million operation. 46 million of that 76 is straight government grants, your traditional, conventional nonprofit. $30 million is a business that manufactures 10,000 airplane parts for Boeing. In the 1960s, Mrs. Boeing approached these nonprofits in the area and said, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we engage these nonprofits to manufacture parts for Boeing, and Boeing will provide the raw materials and the training and the support, and we'll invest in that. And that way we can show our government customers that, look what we're doing for society. There's corporate social responsibility in the 1960s. And even we're providing all these raw materials and all this training. Interestingly enough, it was cheaper than what the unions were charging them. So that's a whole other subject for a whole other time, the challenge between social enterprise and unions. No one's talking about that, but that's something that keeps recurring. That's an opportunity for social enterprises, but we won't go there tonight. But it's a $30 million business that generates $6 million of cash every year. They do no philanthropy. That $6 million is reinvested in social services. It hires 250 mission employees, people coming out of their halfway houses. In addition, every year they train dozens more individuals in manufacturing, thereby allowing them to secure jobs in the Washington area that pay a livable wage. It just is the trifecta of social enterprise. And as I talked to them and I learned about their model, I realized that, of course, there would be no pioneer industries, pioneer human services without Boeing. We, here in Chicago, need to find the Boeing. We need to find the Boeing. We, the practitioners, we need to approach the ITWs and the Crafts and the Abbotts and these really large McDonald's and say, you know, what we usually do, those of us in the nonprofit sector, and of course I do this every day, so I'm criticizing myself, but what we do is, oh please, could I have some money? Oh please, thank you so much. Thank you for your $1,000, Mr. McDonald's. But we need to grow up and we need to become more sophisticated. And we just say, no. We have something that you want. We have social value, social impact. And increasingly in our society, particularly for young people, companies need that because increasingly young people are using that as a way to determine which products they're going to buy. Social value is increasing in value. Social impact is increasing in value. And so we need to approach the Boeings and the Crafts and the others as strategic partners and say, help us to create a social enterprise. Help us to extend our product lines of our current social enterprise. Give us access to your customers. Give us access to your vendors. And then we're going to be able to begin to build a grassroots movement in which we're scaling social enterprise on the ground with corporate partners. Grayston Bakery, very popular, very famous social enterprise. I am a brownie connoisseur, okay? Truly. Cookies, brownies, my wife will tell you, I know a good brownie. The best brownie I've ever tasted. Outstanding, out of Yonkers, New York. It's an $11 million social enterprise, and how they got their start is Ben & Jerry's put their brownies in their ice cream. And Ben & Jerry's is purchased by Unilever, and Unilever loves Grayston Bakery. Unilever is known for its has a blueprint for sustainability that they really market and they tout, and who's prominently featured is Grayston Bakery. And the challenge for Grayston is they need to diversify because 95% of their revenue does go to Unilever, Ben & Jerry's. That's the other great thing that Pioneer does. They diversified away from Boeing. Now they manufacture stereo equipment. Now they manufacture parts for forklifts, stove ovens for Subway franchisees. They make parts for that. So they've successfully diversified. That's what Grayston needs to do. Brigade Fire Station, the fire station in Tooley Street. It's a fabulous restaurant. I went to London. I know London's not known for its food, but it's London, right? Best restaurant I ever did. It's very similar to the Inspiration Corporation here, Inspiration Cafe in Chicago, but it's many levels higher as far as the quality and the cost. It's a high-end restaurant. They would not be in existence if it weren't for PwC. PwC, this is their location right here. That's on the campus of PwC in the heart of London. And PwC gave them seed capital. This is the gentleman who started it. They bring their customers there all the time. They host events there. But that's another example of a strategic partnership that we need to find and cultivate here in Chicago. Pretty slick video. Short, to the point, powerful, energizing, produced by Social Enterprise UK. which was founded in 2002 with the support of the UK government. It's the umbrella organization of social enterprise, impact investors, corporations, people in and around the social enterprise network. And it's amazing how organized they are in the UK, but in other places as well. Part of my fellowship, I was able to go to London. And boy, I'm glad I went there. I so desperately want to go back to learn more because they have it going on there when it comes to social enterprise. Other countries that are, I think, more advanced than we are here in the U.S. is Canada and Australia. Scotland, which is part of the UK, is a hotbed for social enterprise. Even South Korea, I've heard, have a very strong social enterprise ecosystem. They have a act that requires all government procurement to consider social value when making purchases. They have a very robust impact investing network there. They have an agency within the government whose sole purpose is to promote social enterprise. They have a social enterprise day in Seoul, South Korea. The mayor of Seoul is a social entrepreneur himself. I would love to learn more about how did Seoul get to this point where they have this very advanced social enterprise ecosystem. And so I believe that we need to get Seoul here in Chicago. We need to learn from Seoul. But the most advanced social enterprise ecosystem is definitely in the UK. They have very well-established investment networks. They have a very supportive policy all around social enterprise. And at the heart of it, all this ecosystem, is SE UK, Social Enterprise UK. I met with Peter Holbrook, who's the head of SE UK. Boy, if you really want to get on the social enterprise bandwagon, meet this guy. He is passionate. He's traveling all over the world. He's meeting with prime ministers. He truly believes that social enterprise is a key to solving social ills in our societies. And he was just motivating just to be around him. And he was a social entrepreneur himself. And he oversees SE UK, which has 1,000 members from various parts of the social enterprise network. They recently conducted a survey of social enterprise in the UK. And I thought it would be interesting to take a look at how it compares to the US. So they identified in this survey 70,000 social enterprises. Now for this survey, they defined a social enterprise in the UK as an organization that its primary purpose is social impact and generates at least 50% of their total revenue from selling goods and services. And none of the profits are given to any owners, but they are reinvested into the business. That's their definition. And they identified 70,000 social enterprises in the UK that generate 36 billion, that's US dollars, of revenue, and they have 1 million total number of employees. Compared to the US population of 300 million, we have 65,000 social enterprises, we think. 21 billion total revenue, we think, and 650,000 total number of employees. Big question mark. We truly don't know. This is their 4th survey over the years, and it's just fascinating to see how far they've developed this network and this ecosystem. Okay. Here's one of these social enterprises. This is Elvis and Cressy. They're a couple from Canada originally, and they make bags and purses and cufflinks and fashion accessories out of old fire hoses that have gone into the waste stream. And you know, Cameron Diaz is one of their customers, and so it's really cool, you know. You have the big issue over here, which is the largest street newspaper in the world, all over the UK. I met with them. I'm on the board of Streetwise, and so I was very eager to meet with them, to see another street newspaper. They too are struggling with declining sales, but they've gotten into finance and they've diversified into other products. But they have a very quality, it's like a 45-page magazine that looks an awful lot like People. It's really, it's a high-caliber magazine. And then I went to, when I visited Peter Holbrook at his office is he had a pair of underwear on his desk, and it was skimpy underwear, and I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm like, you got a pair of underwear on your desk, and it said pants to poverty, and pants in Britain means it's terrible, pants, it's a terrible thing, so pants to poverty, and it's a fair trade social enterprise that imports these products from India and sells underwear, so it's, you know, very interesting. I don't know if anyone wants to go back to that, but this is really interesting. This was conducted by Red F. They hired a consultant to say, what does the UK social enterprise ecosystem look like? And I like how they did this. They have the know-how, they have the customers, they have the support policy, they have the talent, they have the funding. I mean, most quadrants are really filled in. And again, here's Social Enterprise UK down here. Big issue investments. Invest is the street newspaper that invests in other social enterprises. They basically became impact investors. Impetus is a venture philanthropy fund that's bigger than Red F out of San Francisco. This one I think is interesting too, is Big Society Capital. Basically it's an $800 million, has $800 million of assets, and it was put together by banks that took their dormant funds in checkings and savings accounts that were unused for years and years, and they created a fund to invest in social enterprise. Really, really interesting how they have put this together. And here in the States, just kind of by way of comparison to see, I'll let you know where we are, is that we have a congressman in Rhode Island that just introduced a bill to create it's called the SEED Act, Social Enterprise Ecosystem and Economic Development, SEED Act, to create a commission about social enterprise, which they're going to do their work for a year and get information and then spend a year putting together recommendations on how to stimulate social enterprise in the United States. 2 years, and we all know what's going on with the government, and again, not to criticize, but to give some understanding of where we are compared to other parts of the world and how they are using social enterprise, leveraging it to really affect social change. And so the question is, why is the UK so far ahead of the United States? Well, a couple of things. Margaret Thatcher helped back in the 1980s when she privatized so many of the government services, health services and the railway and the bus line. They had to figure out a way to provide these services using a business model. Also, the culture of philanthropy in the UK is not what it is in the United States. And so if they wanted to provide services, they couldn't rely on philanthropy. Also, it's a smaller country, obviously 50 million people, and so much of the power and so much of the network is in London. So this Peter Holbrook, who's in charge of SEUK, he has access to Prime Minister Gordon Brown. He's met with Prince Charles. He serves on a commission on social enterprise. So he has access to the political classes that can really move this forward. In 2013, they just introduced what they call the Social Value Act, which, again, requires government agencies to consider social value when they're making their purchases. Those types of activities that not only in which they're leveraging this great network, but I think that you're going to see the disparity between what the United States is doing in the UK. I think it's only going to grow because they've got such a long history and a foundation and the infrastructure in place. That is a brilliant video. A brilliant video. And I really debated, should I play the whole video at 6 minutes and 40 seconds? That's a lot of time. But there's just so much in that video. We could spend an hour just talking about the social media and the grassroots and the fact that you can go online and figure out the impact of your purchase, of your direct purchase. This guy, Daniel Flynn, the star, he started Thank You Water 4 years ago when he was 19. And I heard about him because I was in London, and this guy said, oh, you've got to look up Danny Flynn. You've got to see this campaign. It's brilliant. So I didn't think anything of it. I didn't look Danny Flynn up. And then I went to the Social Enterprise World Forum and was talking to this guy from Australia, and he brings up Danny Flynn. You've got to look up Danny Flynn. How many Danny Flynns are there in the world? I would bet you there are a lot in all parts of the world. But I would not have known about him unless I went to London and unless I went to the Social Enterprise World Forum. The Social Enterprise World Forum was in Calgary. And when you go to Calgary, you've got to do what the Calgarians do, which is to ride a bull. Well, there I am at the rodeo. I looked scared, but the bull was more afraid than I was, trust me. But I went to the Social Enterprise World Forum, and I met a woman. And by the way, I didn't know heard of the Social Enterprise World Forum until I went to London. And they said to me, you're going to go to the Social Enterprise World Forum? I said, no, I've never heard of it. And they said, well, it's in Calgary. So I called up my good friends at the Trust. I said, okay, can we change my fellowship here? Can I include this trip to Calgary? And they said, sure, go ahead and do it. Boy, am I glad I did it. Because I met this woman from Toronto. And she attends every World Forum. She runs a nonprofit, similar size to the Cara program, similar mission, has social enterprises, similar budget, and she attends every Social Enterprise World Forum. She's been to Johannesburg and Rio. She's going to Seoul next year to look at their ecosystem firsthand. Then she's going to Milan. And I looked at her and I stopped. I said, how can you afford to go to all these world forums? And she looked at me dead straight in the face and said, how can I afford not to? I love that way of thinking. I love that mindset. And it really provoked me. It's like, damn, I'm going to Seoul, South Korea. I'm going to the World Forum, damn it. I told my wife. She's like, what the heck are you doing? I'm going to Seoul. Because that's where the action is. That's where the ideas are. That's where the networks are. That's where the Danny Flynn's hang out there. And I think the challenge with us, particularly in the nonprofit social enterprise sphere, is we say we don't have it in our budget, I don't have the time. But that woman from Toronto reminded me that we got to make the time. We need a line item in our budgets that say R&D. And the R&D doesn't occur in a lab. It occurs out there. It doesn't occur in Chicago, and I would suggest that it doesn't even really occur in the country. It occurs across the pond in foreign countries. If you really want some new ways of thinking, you got to go where the action is. And so we need R&D. I went to the Social Enterprise Workforce World Forum. There are a lot of people there, most of them Canadians. I'm sure there were more, but I counted 4 Americans there. 4, including me. Calgary is a 3.5-hour plane ride from Chicago. There were more people from Scotland than there were at Calgary than there were from America. There were more people from Australia in Calgary than there were Americans. To me, that speaks volumes as far as how we operate in this country. We are very insular. We're very insular. And I would suggest, quite frankly, I think we in Chicago are even more insular. And we think we know what's going on, but we really don't. And I would love for foundations to really think about how do we not only provide R&D support to organizations, but how do we promote it? How do we encourage it? You know, we don't have to give people fellowships for 3 months, but if we have these focused, targeted conferences that say, you know, there's a women's issues, domestic violence conference over in Johannesburg. Let's send 5 people from Chicago over there. The people, obviously, is very close, but Vancouver and Calgary, there were so many people in Vancouver, and they got such a great social enterprise ecosystem, but they were proud that they all went together to the Social Enterprise World Forum. Let's do that in Chicago. Let's get outside the country as a group and learn and network and see how we can really scale social enterprise. I put together a very rough draft of some of the players on the social enterprise ecosystem in Chicago. And huge gaps. I want to get it to that point like they had, like that woman did from Red F, that consultant from Red F for London. I want to really flesh out and see the landscape. And I think we really need to do it to get a snapshot of who are the players, who are the funders, who's providing the talent, who's providing the policy advocacy. That's where we need to go. We also need to define the term social enterprise, as I talked about. And I think Social Enterprise Alliance and National, they need to start doing that. I'm going up there next week to talk to them, and that's going to be on my agenda. We need to start organizing around common goals. We need to find the Boeing in Chicago and identify engaged strategic corporate partners for social enterprise. The United Way can help us out with that. The Chicago Community Trust, World Business Chicago, we need to proactively engage them in this conversation to help us access the head of ITW and start having these conversations. We need to propose a Social Value Act for our state, our county, our city. It's not going to happen from the federal government. But can we talk to Preckwinkle or Emanuel, or even talk to Senator Heather Staines, who sponsored this L3C legislation in the state legislature? Well, we need to start advocating in this arena. We need, as I said, we need to survey the social enterprise ecosystem and landscape, and that's something the Social Enterprise Chicago chapter, where I'm a board of, can start to do, to give that snapshot so we know what we're dealing with. We need to find the George Roberts in Chicago. We really, someone in the private equity space who knows this stuff, who knows how to build businesses and is passionate about using business for social change. We also need to engage private equity firms for investment in customers. I mean, that's one of the things that Red F is looking to do, is how do we leverage these private equity relationships we have and get into their portfolios and their customer base and also get more investment. And then, as I said, we need to fund R&D that's taking place outside of Chicago. And I think if we can talk to the Donors Forum and say to them, hey, who are those funders that you're working with that would really get excited about funding R&D and having Chicago be represented in all parts of the globe on a particular issue? This is just the beginning. And again, this presentation was really like a 2-hour presentation. And talking to my colleague Sarah's like, you got to cut this, you got to cut this. I mean, I went to Peterborough, UK to talk about social impact bonds. I'm looking forward to talking about that. Talent acquisition, I have a whole thing on talent acquisition, metrics, measurement. And so what we would like to do is we'd like to continue the conversation. And so every quarter we want to present not only about my fellowship and the things that I learned and continue to learn, but invite others. And how do we create a community of social entrepreneurs, social investors who continue this conversation so we can build on this to-do list, take action steps, and really build a vibrant ecosystem here in Chicago?